an original Pacific Islander task force, and a radio Mulundong to San Francisco, Ekoti Kenta Patamai.
Na radio Mulando Vata San Francisco, me vakawa vakarita katukanian da sana sema saratukan yung go kin nonde wasin ngo Novata bito ko ni tiko kin na Regional Pacific Islander Task Force ni raito ko mayngore ni raonin Reidi Kekoa Lopez do venga ravitiko and the Regional Pacific Islander Task Force Bulavinaka Kekoa. We are so happy to have you once again on our show this afternoon. How are you doing?
Hi, Una. Yeah, Bulavinaka, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Great. How was your weekend?
Well, it was well. My mother-in-law is in town. So I'm just kind of hanging with her.
Sounds
We
like
went to
fun.
we went to the San Francisco MoMA Museum. So
Oh, when did you
that's,
go? Because I know it's tight this week. Traffic, security in the city.
yeah, with APEC going on, I
Right.
think there's a lot of more traffic in the city, but it was nice because I think we went before all
The
the comings
craziness.
and goings. Yeah, before it got too crazy. So it was beautiful though. I think everyone should go to the art museum if you
Yes.
find the time.
Great. You know, it's funny you said that. I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and they talked about Ukraine and all the many museums that they
Mm,
had and how they've been just destroyed in this war. Kind of sad to watch it, but here we are. We
yeah,
have so much to be grateful for.
I know.
And yes, one of the many things you're able to still go to the museum and enjoy it, right?
hmm The different context here, but yeah, it's
For
it's hard
sure.
to like sort of look on that issue and then try to also deal with our own thing here. But yeah, there's so many co-occurring issues happening, and so
Yeah.
can
So
only focus
true.
where we can, right?
So true. Well, one of the many things that we are grateful for as the Fijian radio station taking care or trying to help our Fijian communities, our diaspora, not just here in the U.S., it's global, and we're grateful for this platform. We are
Absolutely.
also grateful for the Regional Pacific Islander Task Force, you and Taunu'u, for always helping us out. And we're happy to have you today. And you did mention that today we are going to be talking about TB, and this is something that I would say, majority of people, of our people that have been here in the U.S. Familiar with, and there are also a lot of us that have just come into the country that are not familiar with. Like when I say not familiar with, by that I mean that they're not really familiar with how crucial it is to get tested, and that they need to have that test so they can get jobs, so they can be employed. So, Kekoa, what do you have for us tonight in terms of TB?
Yeah, thank you so much, Una, for like the setup. But yeah, like with regards to TB, I think it's important for all Pacific Islander communities to get tested. Um, And then, of course, within our work in Sonoma County, we would like to try to link our community with the Sonoma Department of Public Health and their TB control unit to better understand, where can our people get tested for TB
Right.
freely, though. And then there's a lot of dynamics between the skin test versus the blood test. Usually the skin test is like free. So like the Jewish Community Free Clinic, our partners in health in Sonoma County, they do a free skin test, a TB skin test. But I believe the blood test might come at some attached cost. But and then I also know that, you know, following that test, you might be asked to do an X-ray,
An X-ray, yeah.
and that might be harder for people to, find a way to access without access to insurance and other things like that. So it's a big equity issue with regards to like who can access the TB screening services and who could access even treatment. So yeah, I come kind of talking about that on a whole.
That's great. And the good thing is, most of these clinics, most of these health clinics that that we can go to, are free, believe it or not.
Yeah,
And
like
and if
the
there,
Jewish Community Free Clinic was one clinic I mentioned,
mm-hmm,
but usually, I mean, the TB skin tests are free, and usually they're required for people to take before they start working, and it's a thing that people will most likely engage with if they're, in the United States
mm-hmm,
and are working here
right.
for sure.
Especially for our communities, most of us come and we start off with caregiving, and it's a requirement for you to be able to do caregiving. You need to have that skin test, the TB test, and for most of us, also, Koa, I know that it might scare some of us because that's how I felt when I first got into the
Yeah.
country and got tested, and then they told me that I tested positive. It was scary.
Oh, yes.
Yes, but I think that we could take it upon us to, to assure our people that just because you have a positive skin test does not mean that you have
Like
TB or
active
that
TB.
yeah, active TB. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to go for the X-ray, and I don't remember how much I had to pay, but I know that it was very minimal, um, if anything, at that point, and that was years ago. But I also know that nowadays there's not that much that they can still get the X-ray at a minimal cost, and that's something to be grateful for. Maybe
Yeah.
there are places out there that do this test without cost. I'm not really sure about that, but
Yeah,
tell.
but your story, Una, is
Mhm.
very powerful in itself because it represents that kind of TB testing pathway, I guess you could call it,
Right,
because you were screened positive for the
the skin test.
skin test,
Hmm.
and then that next prompts you to get the X-ray,
Right.
and then when they X-ray you, they're just looking at your lungs.
Hmm.
They're looking at your whether or not you have active TB disease in your
In
lungs.
your lungs, yeah.
And if you don't, that means you might have what's called latent TB infection,
Hmm.
which means you might have TB cells or like bacteria floating in your system that
Hmm.
may become active
Hmm.
and cause your body to sort of undergo TB disease
Hmm.
later in life, even though right now it's inactive.
Right.
And the way I like to think about it, it's like almost like because we went through it, COVID.
Hmm.
So like there are some people who are asymptomatic,
Hmm.
who they
Hmm.
have COVID, but it's not an active infection in their body, so they can't spread it and they're not feeling sick, but they might have it in their system still.
Hmm.
So it's similar with TB disease that it could become active at any moment,
Hmm.
and we just don't know.
Right. And I remember, Cole, when the technician told me that I tested positive. Um, like I said, it was scary because, like
Mm,
back home, I remember going to school, and at one point it was someone, tested positive, and it almost like we were on lockdown because they told us, like,
yeah.
you have to be tested if you were in close contact with this person. You had to go get tested, and it was so. I still had that on my mind, and then I got here and I tested positive. So that was
Mm,
scary. Um, but then she explained to me that just because that you tested positive for the skin test doesn't mean that you have it. That's why you need to go for the X-ray.
mhm.
And so, of course, I couldn't go to work because of that. I mean, you can't work. Esengani rauni danali daka daka kevakai sa solimai na nomo test gay positive to na skin test. So then you have to go for the X-ray. And then at the X-ray, they explained to me that majority of us that come from third world countries will test positive for the TB, the skin test. I remember that so well. She said most people that come from third world countries will always test positive when you're getting the skin test. That's why you always have to kind of go for the secondary, which is the X-ray, and the X-ray core is good for 5 years, so you can use it As long as you carry that
Yeah,
X-ray result
you,
for 5 years, you're good.
exactly, Una. You should like periodically test for the X-ray. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, following a TB skin test, if you test positive for that, you should periodically get tested with the X-ray. And really the X-ray is just to see if you have active TB disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at your lung health in an X-ray. And I guess what the radiologists, the technicians are looking for if they're trying to interpret the X-ray
Mm-hmm.
is if your lungs are really patchy and it has a lot of like phlegm and other things. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of signals that you either have active TB disease or maybe even COVID because we're still in the times of COVID. But either way, following a TB skin test, it's very important to get an X-ray. And not a lot of our people like know that and know that they have access to it, through other clinics and
Mm-hmm.
federally qualified health centers, the healthcare safety net, and all those things, to really evaluate whether or not they have active TB disease. So super important. And I didn't know that you had that story, Una, about getting tested and screening positive either. So.
Majority of us go through that. So, Koa, tell us about the upcoming or the planned uh, health ministry, the Fijian Health Ministry TB campaign that we're working on. I know it's it's been a lot of going to and fro, but I also know, Koa, that it is going to happen. So,
Oh yes, I have no doubt it's going to happen,
hmm
and it's an amazing collaboration between Radio Bula as well as Regional Pacific Islander Task Force and multiple Fijian churches
hmm
in all across Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, who are really just try to discuss tuberculosis and try to weave together where they could get access, the community could get access to tuberculosis screenings, and then X-rays like we've been discussing,
hmm
and even like where they could get access to like treatment,
hmm
if they're screened positive for these things and even have active TB disease, are there like treatments available for community members to take so that their latent tuberculosis infection never becomes disease and they could treat it before they get sick later in life. So
hmm Great.
things like that.
So that would be in the next few months, maybe early next year. We'll have our first workshop.
Yeah, I'm hoping like we'll be through sort of contracting and getting through all that,
hmm
and through the holidays. So like starting next year, we'll start to talk about our first workshop, and hopefully we'll coordinate that with the Sonoma Department of Public Health and their TB control unit.
hmm
Um, because so far like the task force, we've reached out to the. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a dog.
That's all right.
Um,
We
but
have
yeah,
we
like
have sound effects, so it's all good.
oh, okay. But yeah, hopefully we could reach out to the California State Department of Public Health and talk about, what kind of things we could teach the community about with regards to like,
hmm
what to know about latent TBI, or latent TB infection.
hmm
Because it's like I think 1 in every 10 people with latent TB infection
hmm
will eventually become TB disease.
hmm
So that's why it's important while people are asymptomatic and not sort of, you know, with their X-ray, they don't have active TB disease, they're fine. While they're still healthy, it's important that those people still get treated for their LTBI,
hmm
so it never becomes disease later in life, which
Right.
comes with economic costs. If you have to stay home because you're sick and all that,
hmm
you lose out on working and all those things that might happen, and then your health, of course, first and foremost. So.
So true. Good. What's I'm trying to think of that saying. Wealth. Your health is wealth, or something like that. you know, something along that line.
Absolutely, yeah. Like
Thank
while
you.
you're healthy, it's a
Yeah.
perfect time to get tested and make sure that if you're screen positive for LTBI, that you get treated for it, so it never becomes disease.
hmm
Because you might still get TB disease even though you're screened like you're fine in the day, the moment you get it, it may still become TB disease if you have the infection just kind of floating in you.
Thank you.
So that's why it's really important to get screened and really important to get the X-ray to make sure that if you do have active TB disease, that you get treated right away.
Great. So we have that to look forward to. Na tik-tik po niya baki mo yung go, kito sa ato politiko, liw na Veitalanoa se bakay thoriting go, me baka matata kita tinga kine vida na ka, vana songo-songo lotu, sa may ndo bata tikong go, ka sa may budini tiko kina na Fijian Health Ministry. Fijian Health Ministry, tikwo se ato yabutakin na yung baki yung go, ka sa ato sabi nagsartiko, ya kongo ni ana Veitalanoa na songa na formu se ngandreviti ko me bakaliweni me nang kay todo ko kinan na nito bakaraw member leta na TB workshops and a campaign kito kiro Veitalanoa takatiko ningo me nang kay kiro saba ko nitiko that we will get it started at least the first one by January. That's really the goal, Koa. We can't go any later than that because things get busy, everyone gets busy, so the sooner we get it started the better. Thank you, Cole. Was that something else you wanted to share apart from TB?
Apart from TB, if there's any like Radio Bula listener who also have stories about having tested for TB and being screened positive, the task force would love to hear your story. So if they could email my email at koalp at rpitf.org. It stands for Regional Pacific Islander Task Force.org. But yeah, if anyone can feel free to email me so we could capture more stories in the Fijian community who have just sort of dealt with TB screening and screening even positive and how they're dealing with that sense.
Can that be anonymous?
And it can be anonymous. Like the task force isn't trying to explain or out anybody for their TB positive status at all. So like we really are just trying to collect stories. So if you have like a story that you would like to share with us about your TB testing experience, like if you've ever gotten like on your skin, I believe on your forearm, they insert a needle and then and give you the TB test, and you get a little bubble on your arm. If you want to talk about just that experience, even if you screen negative, just how that experience went, please feel free to email. And even beyond tuberculosis, I guess there's also the task force is looking for images of Fijian community members for new cancer screening materials. So we're working with the University of California, San Francisco, and their medical school, their cancer center. We're working with them to try to create more Pacific Islander centered cancer screening materials. And we would like to create some in in Fijian language, but also using images of Fijian community members.
Great.
So really welcome anybody who's also interested in that to also email me or Radio Bula to follow up about that.
Great. And I'll be sure to put your email and a little post on our Facebook page just to encourage our people. Yes. Thank you, Koa. Did you have anything else before we wrap up this afternoon?
Not so far, but I'm excited, as you said, like getting into the Fijian Health Ministry tuberculosis work into January, into the new year. I'm excited, once we're through all the sort of slog of getting everyone contracted and ready to do this tuberculosis outreach work, that we, jump into it with a fresh mind into the new year after the holidays.
For sure.
After the rejuvenation of the holidays, I'm sure we'll jump right into it. And, I'm excited to go through it with you as a partner.
Great. How about we get that as part of the rejuvenation? TB
Yeah,
testing. Let's just get educated and let's get everyone tested for TB and whatever else that we will have coming for the Fijian Health Ministry, right? I'm sure there'll be
Exactly.
other campaigns. Thank you so much, Kekoa Lopez, mai waketawitikuani and Veitalanoa na nonretoi wasiningona kartondo veto koditiko kina na Regional Pacific Islander Task Force. Wishing you a blessed week, Koa. Until the next time, stay safe.
Thank you so
Bongo
much.
na programo Warotaki man Regional Pacific Islander Task Force and a radio mulandong sa San Francisco, Nakoti Kenta Patamay.